More than 500 years ago, this man knew exactly what it took to become rich. And it's no coincidence that Jacob Fugger became one of the greatest millionaires of his time. But here's the truth. Nothing has changed. If you apply the same strategies, with the same mindset, you can become one of the next great millionaires of our era. The wisdom is old, but the power, it's timeless. This is the mindset of wealth, uncovered from half a millennium ago. Before we begin, make sure you subscribe to this channel, EU So O Prospero, and tap that like button if you believe in your potential to become a millionaire. This channel was created for every soul who dreams of wealth, for those who already feel like millionaires deep inside, even if the world hasn't seen it yet. And when you finish watching, leave a comment saying, "I already knew this secret," because maybe, just maybe, that wealth has been waiting inside you all along. Are you ready? A 5-second message. Are you in debt? Want to know how to always have money? After watching this video, click the first link below, in the description or the pinned comment. Discover the Live Always with Money method. Find out the 10 steps that are changing lives. Link in the description and pinned comment. And for you, the one who knows you were born to be a millionaire, to be rich, I invite you to discover how to get rich through the power of thought. Access the method in the description. Golden Mindset, 30 Steps to Wealth Through the Power of the Mind. He thought like a rich man before he was one. Jacob Fugger wasn't born into a palace. He wasn't handed wealth or titles. He came from a family of cloth merchants, ordinary traders in the bustling city of Augsburg. But in his mind, he was never just a merchant. From an early age, he rejected limitation. He rejected the idea that wealth belonged to others, to nobles, to kings. Jacob saw something different. He saw that riches don't arrive by chance, they arrive by identity. Where others said, "That's not for people like us," Jacob said, "That's exactly for me." While the people around him were consumed with day-to-day survival, he quietly trained himself to think long-term, wide-scale, and high-level. He imagined a world where he was not following money, but directing it. He envisioned influence, not obedience. Ownership, not permission. And here's the most powerful part. He did this before he had anything. Before the gold. Before the mines. Before the power. That's what made Jacob Fugger different. He didn't wait for wealth to give him permission to think big. He thought big to give wealth permission to come. He didn't act poor. He didn't speak like a beggar. He didn't dream in fractions. He carried the mindset of a rich man in a poor man's clothes. And that changes everything. Because wealth isn't about numbers. It starts in the internal blueprint, the unseen patterns of belief that silently shape every decision you make. While others were looking down, counting coins, obeying masters, Jacob was looking up, calculating markets, studying movements, understanding people. He didn't see money as luck. He saw it as architecture, something that could be built, designed, and duplicated. He didn't ask, "Can I afford it?" He asked, "How do I create it?" That one question separated him from thousands. Most people wait for success to show up before they believe they deserve it. Fugger believed first, and the world caught up. He believed in abundance, not as a fantasy, but as a system waiting to be mastered. He believed in legacy, not for ego, but as a responsibility. And he believed that no one, not even a king, had a more powerful tool than a focused, trained, determined mind. That belief shaped everything. He dressed with confidence, spoke with clarity, made decisions with courage. Not because he had something to prove, but because he already knew who he was becoming. There's something magnetic about that kind of energy. Doors open differently. People respond differently. Opportunities that seem invisible to others suddenly appear. Jacob didn't follow the path of a rich man. He created it, step by step, with thoughts, with vision, with relentless inner certainty. And that's the real secret. You don't wait to become rich to think like a rich man. You think like a rich man to become one. It starts when you stop accepting your current reality as your final one. It begins the moment you stop asking for permission and start moving with intention. Just like Jacob Fugger did, 5 centuries ago, when no one believed a cloth merchant's son could change the financial world forever. He didn't just build a fortune. He built a mindset so strong, reality had no choice but to follow. A 5-second message. Are you in debt? Want to know how to always have money? After watching this video, click the first link below, in the description or the pinned comment. Discover the Live Always with Money method. Find out the 10 steps that are changing lives. Link in the description and pinned comment. And for you, the one who knows you were born to be a millionaire, to be rich, I invite you to discover how to get rich through the power of thought. Access the method in the description. Golden Mindset, 30 Steps to Wealth Through the Power of the Mind. He followed the money others ignored. In the world of business, it's easy to get caught up in the frenzy. Everyone is chasing the same thing, fighting for the same scraps. The gold rush is loud, the competition fierce. People follow the crowd, believing the value is wherever the masses are. They line up at the same doors, reach for the same opportunities, and believe that success is a game of being in the right place at the right time. But Jacob Fugger wasn't like most men. While they were chasing the shining, obvious treasure of gold, Fugger was hunting for the hidden, quiet streams of opportunity, the ones that no one else saw, the ones that required vision and patience. Where others looked at silver, copper, and gems as just materials, Fugger saw them as powerful assets waiting to be tapped. While the world followed the noise, Fugger followed the silence. He understood that wealth doesn't live in the obvious. It resides in the places people don't think to look, the spaces others ignore out of complacency or fear. This wasn't just about mining precious metals. It was about seeing value where others saw only waste. It was about finding niches, emerging industries, and expanding into new territories where no one had bothered to venture yet. Fugger recognized that money flows where attention doesn't, and it's there, in those overlooked corners of the world, where fortunes are built. It's a mindset that most people miss. They look where the crowd looks because it feels safe, familiar, and comfortable. They are drawn to what's popular, what's on the surface, not understanding that the real treasure lies in places that aren't so obvious. Fugger saw something different. He understood that the world isn't run by following the herd. It's run by those who dare to walk alone, to be early, to invest in the unseen, the undiscovered. And so he did. Fugger's brilliance lay in his ability to spot hidden opportunities. The vast copper deposits in Hungary, the silver mines in Bohemia. He didn't wait for others to discover them. By the time the masses caught on, he was already ahead, already securing his future. He didn't wait for permission to explore the less obvious avenues of wealth. He created his own path where the market was quiet, where competitors hadn't yet arrived. But it wasn't just about the materials. Fugger saw wealth in the systems of finance, systems that were still in their infancy. While banks and the wealthy class were focused on land, agriculture, and the traditional paths to fortune, Fugger understood that money flowed not only in physical assets but also in credit, loans, and connections. He was one of the first to understand the importance of credit as a currency, something that others had yet to grasp fully. His investment strategy wasn't based on what was safe or conventional. It was built on understanding value before others recognized it. While others doubted the future of mining, banking, and trade, Fugger saw exactly where the world was headed, and he moved with purpose, planting his roots in the very places that would yield the most growth. The wealthy, Fugger knew, don't follow the crowd. They follow value wherever it may be hiding. And value isn't always loud. It doesn't always come wrapped in gold. Sometimes, it's quiet. Sometimes, it's in an unexplored sector of the economy, a market not yet recognized, a method of doing business that no one else has thought of. Fugger's genius was in his timing. He knew that fortune favors the bold. Not just the bold who take risks, but the bold who see the unseen, who can recognize patterns when the world isn't looking. While others scrambled for the easy, quick win, Fugger took the long view, always searching for the next big opportunity, the one that no one else had yet considered. He didn't simply adapt to the market. He shaped it. In the end, Jacob Fugger's wealth wasn't the result of following the popular trends or mimicking what others did. It came from his ability to recognize value where no one else could. He didn't follow the money. He followed the untapped potential that others ignored. He became not just a businessman, but a master of spotting the future before it arrived. If you want to succeed like Fugger, you must stop asking, "Where is everyone going?" and start asking, "Where is everyone missing?" The real riches are found not in the obvious, but in the uncharted territories. And the brave are the ones who dare to claim them. He learned the language of power, finance. While most people throughout history focused on the tangible, counting coins, measuring gold, acquiring land, Jacob Fugger saw beyond the surface. He understood that the true game of wealth wasn't about owning assets. It was about controlling the flow of those assets. While others fixated on accumulating physical wealth, Fugger immersed himself in mastering a language that few truly understood: the language of finance. To Fugger, money wasn't just a thing to possess. It was a force, an energy that could be harnessed, manipulated, and directed. He didn't see currency as an end. He saw it as a means to shape outcomes, to influence kingdoms, and to control the future. The system of finance, the way money moved between people, businesses, and governments, was his playground. At the time, financial systems were in their infancy. Banking was not what it is today. Concepts like interest rates, credit, and debt were still being defined. Few understood how to leverage these elements, and even fewer had the courage to experiment with them. But Fugger had an innate ability to see opportunity in places where others saw complexity or risk. Where others only saw danger in lending money, Fugger saw leverage. He understood that the real power in finance didn't come from having cash in hand. It came from controlling when, where, and to whom money flowed. While others were focused on wealth accumulation through labor or land, Fugger focused on wealth accumulation through influence over financial systems. He didn't just lend money to individuals. He lent money to kings, to emperors, to entire nations. He became the banker of Europe, and through these powerful connections, he amassed a fortune that would be unheard of in his time. What Fugger truly mastered was credit. Long before it became a structured industry, Fugger understood that credit was the backbone of modern economies. It was the fuel that allowed expansion, innovation, and growth. Fugger didn't just lend out money. He created systems of trust that enabled rulers, merchants, and even the church to borrow vast sums of money. And in return, they paid him with interest. But what Fugger understood, which others did not, was that interest wasn't just an additional charge. It was a tool of control. The true beauty of Fugger's work wasn't just in his ability to lend. It was in his deep comprehension of the power dynamics of money. He knew that the ability to lend money, and to have it repaid, was a form of influence greater than any army or title. Fugger didn't just own gold. He owned the ability to move it. While others looked at debt as a liability, Fugger looked at it as an opportunity for leverage. He used debt as a way to solidify power, gain control, and direct the course of nations. He realized that governments, while powerful, were often strapped for cash, and that was his opening. Kings, emperors, and even popes needed money, and Fugger became the one they turned to. He was the man who could fund wars, expeditions, and monumental projects. And when those kings and rulers turned to him for support, they didn't just owe him money. They owed him their future, their decisions, and their very ability to maintain power. Fugger's wealth was tied not to the physical things he owned, but to the vast network of debts he was connected to. Fugger's rise was built on a simple truth: those who control money control the world. It wasn't enough to accumulate wealth. Fugger knew he had to master the systems that governed how wealth flowed. He understood that interest, credit, loans, and investment weren't just financial tools. They were instruments of influence. Fugger's knowledge of these systems gave him the leverage to shape history itself. But Fugger's brilliance wasn't in exploiting the system. It was in understanding it at a fundamental level. While most people saw credit as a simple transaction, Fugger saw it as a strategic advantage. He didn't lend out money recklessly. He chose his borrowers carefully, understanding that his ability to lend could shape their decisions, and, by extension, shape history. He lent to those who were in positions of power, but also to those who could promise future returns, politically, economically, or militarily. This mastery of finance was not just about making money, it was about positioning himself as an irreplaceable force in the networks of power. Fugger didn't just follow the money, he orchestrated it. He recognized that the real power didn't rest in owning the gold, it rested in controlling who got to use it, and how it moved through the world. Jacob Fugger was one of the first to realize that money is more than just a commodity, it is a means of creating and maintaining influence. He didn't just accumulate wealth. He created a system where he was the central node, the one whose influence could decide the outcome of wars, the fate of nations, and the success of dynasties. He mastered the language of power through finance, and in doing so, he redefined what it meant to be rich. It wasn't enough to own things. True wealth, Fugger knew, was about owning the systems that control those things. If you want to become a master of wealth, learn the language of finance, because those who understand how money moves are the ones who truly control the game. He saw fear as a business opportunity. History is often shaped by moments of crisis. Wars erupt, empires crumble, economies collapse, and fear spreads like wildfire. For most, these are times of retreat, of waiting for the storm to pass, of doing everything possible to preserve what little they have left. But for Jacob Fugger, moments of chaos were the opportunities others missed. While Europe trembled under the weight of constant wars, political instability, and social upheaval, Fugger was busy building his empire. Where others saw danger, he saw potential. Where the masses cowered in fear, Fugger moved forward with purpose. He understood something that most people overlook. Crisis isn't the end, it's the beginning. The beginning of a new order. The beginning of wealth for those who understand how to act when others freeze. Fugger wasn't afraid of risk. In fact, he embraced it. But not the reckless risk of those who are impulsive or driven by ego. No, Fugger took calculated risks. Risks that were based on understanding and foresight. When wars ravaged countries, when economies faltered, when leaders struggled to maintain power, Fugger saw opportunity where others only saw destruction. One of Fugger's greatest investments came during a time of intense instability in Europe. The political landscape was constantly shifting. Kings and emperors fought for dominance, and wars were a regular occurrence. Most people would have backed away, held onto their resources, and waited for the dust to settle. But Fugger didn't wait for safety. He saw what others didn't see. He saw the potential for massive returns if he invested during these turbulent times. Why? Because Fugger understood the power of timing. He knew that in every crisis, there are two types of people: those who panic and those who plan. The ones who panic do so because they're overwhelmed by uncertainty. They see the world as it is right now, chaotic, uncertain, and scary, and they act in fear. But the ones who plan, the ones who understand the nature of business and wealth, know that the most valuable opportunities emerge in times of fear. Fugger's strategy was simple. When the world was at its most unstable, he invested. He lent money to kings, governments, and even to enemies, knowing that he could demand repayment later. And when his debtors couldn't repay, he didn't lose his fortune. He seized their lands, properties, and businesses. While others were retreating, Fugger was expanding. He understood that when the world fears, the brave rise. And the brave, Fugger knew, profit. He also understood that during times of upheaval, people were desperate. Desperate people make decisions they wouldn't make in more stable times. Fugger took advantage of this. He loaned money during wars to rulers and factions who were scrambling for cash to finance their battles. When those leaders couldn't repay, Fugger's investments often resulted in huge returns, both in terms of assets and power. But Fugger wasn't a simple opportunist. He didn't just throw money at every problem. He looked for patterns. He observed and analyzed the unfolding chaos and understood that there are always winners and losers in times of crisis. The key was to recognize who was going to come out on top, and then position yourself ahead of time. Fugger invested in the right people, the right industries, and the right sectors during times of fear. While others withdrew, Fugger doubled down. Fugger's ability to see opportunity in crisis also stemmed from his psychological mastery. He understood that most people's fear was rooted in the unknown. They feared losing what they had. Fugger, on the other hand, understood that fear of loss could be harnessed. He didn't let the world's uncertainty paralyze him. He used it as a catalyst. When the future was unclear, he stayed clear-headed, planned strategically, and moved when others hesitated. This is where Fugger thrived, when others were blind to opportunity because they couldn't see past the immediate pain. He didn't just survive in the chaos. He thrived in it. Fugger didn't fear the future because he understood it wasn't defined by the present moment. He knew that history is always written in the aftermath of chaos, and for those with vision, the aftermath can be incredibly lucrative. Fugger didn't let the world's instability define his fate. He defined it himself, stepping forward when others stepped back. At the core of Fugger's brilliance was his unshakable belief in his own ability to navigate the storm. Most people, in the face of crisis, become paralyzed by fear. But Fugger didn't just stay calm in the face of danger. He acted. He took decisive action when others were still waiting for certainty. Fugger understood the power of fear, and instead of running from it, he used it. In the end, Fugger's wealth wasn't just built on smart investments. It was built on his ability to understand human psychology during times of fear and uncertainty. He knew that while others were waiting for calm, he had the opportunity to shape the future. crisis is not the end. It's the beginning. For those who see opportunity where others see only danger. And that is where the brave profit. He built networks, not just wealth. In the quest for wealth, many are obsessed with the tangible. Gold, silver, property. These are the symbols of prosperity in a material world. But Jacob Fugger understood that wealth wasn't just about accumulating physical assets. It was about building something far more valuable, something that could withstand the tests of time, crisis, and change. He understood that networks are the true currency of power. While others focused solely on the accumulation of money, Fugger focused on the accumulation of relationships. He didn't work alone. In fact, his success can be traced directly to the alliances he forged with emperors, popes, merchants, and politicians across Europe. These were not just transactional relationships. Fugger knew how to cultivate trust, mutual benefit, and reciprocity, the cornerstones of powerful networks. Fugger was acutely aware that no amount of money could open doors in the same way that a well-placed connection could. The wealth Fugger amassed wasn't just a reflection of his business acumen. It was a reflection of the relationships he nurtured and the strategic partnerships he built. Where others saw business as a transaction, Fugger saw it as a long-term relationship, a web of interconnections that could elevate him and his ventures to new heights. He didn't simply look at people as stepping stones. He understood that each individual had value. Emperors, kings, popes. These were the people Fugger made alliances with. He became a trusted advisor to some of the most powerful figures in Europe. They didn't just come to him for money. They came to him because they recognized that Fugger had influence. He had the ability to connect the dots, to bring people together, and to build bridges where others saw only gaps. Fugger's genius wasn't just in his ability to accumulate wealth, it was in his ability to recognize that wealth, at its core, is a social construct. The value of a piece of property, the power of a kingdom, the strength of an empire, all of these things were underpinned by networks. To Fugger, the most valuable asset wasn't money or land. It was the network of relationships that he had cultivated over time. In today's world, we hear the phrase, "It's not what you know, it's who you know." For Fugger, this wasn't just a clever saying, it was the foundation of his entire strategy. His network was his greatest asset. Through his connections, Fugger was able to gain access to opportunities, leverage resources, and acquire influence that no amount of capital could buy. He didn't just build alliances for personal gain. Fugger understood the concept of mutual benefit. He knew that the key to lasting relationships was ensuring that both parties stood to gain. By helping others achieve their goals, he ensured that they would, in turn, help him achieve his. It was a cycle of trust and support, one that he worked tirelessly to maintain. But Fugger also knew that trust was the bedrock of any meaningful relationship. He didn't leverage people simply for profit. He built deep, trusting connections. His reputation as a reliable and insightful financier spread quickly, and soon, kings, emperors, and popes were not just turning to him for money, they were looking to him for counsel. They valued his opinion, his expertise, and his ability to navigate the complexities of European politics and economics. Fugger's relationships weren't just with the highest echelons of society, either. He understood that a network isn't just about those at the top. It's about the people who hold the keys to opportunity. Merchants, local leaders, traders, and professionals. These individuals, though not as powerful on the surface, were often the ones with access to critical information, hidden opportunities, and untapped markets. Fugger treated everyone with respect, recognizing that even the smallest connection could lead to the largest opportunity. One of the most striking aspects of Fugger's network building was his understanding of interdependence. Fugger didn't just create relationships where he was the center. He built a system of mutually beneficial interactions. He understood that in order to be truly wealthy, not just financially, but socially and politically, he had to create a system where the success of others was intertwined with his own. This meant that, when Fugger made an investment or loan, he wasn't just thinking about his immediate return. He was thinking about how that decision would impact his broader network. He was positioning himself to be indispensable to others, and in turn, they would return the favor. His network wasn't just a tool for survival, it was a tool for expansion. Fugger's wealth was amplified by the people he knew and the influence he wielded through them. When Fugger lent money to a king, he wasn't just expecting repayment. He was building loyalty, gaining political leverage, and establishing a reputation that would ensure future opportunities. In a world where wealth was often synonymous with physical assets, Fugger understood the most crucial truth. True power lies in relationships. Your network is not just a collection of contacts, it's your hidden bank account, a source of strength that can sustain you through good times and bad. Fugger didn't just build wealth, he built a web of influence, a structure that could support him in ways that mere money never could. Your network is your hidden bank account. And just like Fugger, if you know how to build trust, power, and connection, you can unlock a wealth that goes far beyond the financial. He reinvented the rules. Jacob Fugger was not a man who simply accepted the status quo. While many in his time followed the established systems, whether they were dictated by religion, politics, or tradition, Fugger had a different vision. He didn't just play the game. He rewrote it. His ability to see beyond the limitations of existing rules allowed him to not only survive but thrive during times of profound change and uncertainty. One of the most remarkable ways Fugger reinvented the game was through his understanding of finance, particularly his approach to interest on loans. During his time, the Catholic Church had decreed that charging interest on loans was a sin. For most people, this would have been a hard rule to follow, with little recourse or opportunity to make money from lending. But Fugger wasn't just anyone. He understood the power of creative thinking. Instead of simply accepting the ban, he found legal ways to sidestep it. He didn't break the rules. He found loopholes and worked within the system to his advantage. Fugger pioneered financial structures that allowed him to charge interest in ways that were technically not considered interest, but which still provided him with massive profits. His innovative financing techniques not only made him incredibly wealthy but also reshaped how people thought about loans, investments, and the flow of capital. Fugger recognized that the rules were only as strong as the ability to challenge them, and he was always willing to ask, "What if?" When others saw roadblocks, Fugger saw pathways. His success didn't stop at just financial innovations. Fugger was a master of strategy in all aspects of his business. During periods of economic collapse, when others retreated into uncertainty, Fugger didn't panic. Instead, he created stability. When entire economies faltered, Fugger saw these moments as opportunities. He understood that systems, whether financial or political, are always vulnerable. He also understood that systems can be rebuilt. When the economy in Europe collapsed due to war, political instability, and the disarray caused by the Black Death, Fugger didn't sit idly by and wait for conditions to improve. He took action to create his own system of economic stability. He secured his wealth by investing in essential industries and, more importantly, by being in control of his own financial ecosystem. His vast network of connections with kings, emperors, and popes gave him the leverage to maintain his position, but it was his ability to see opportunities in chaos that set him apart. Fugger also recognized that the old systems of power, based on land, aristocracy, and monarchies, were beginning to lose their grip. The emergence of capitalism, trade, and banking provided an entirely new landscape for wealth creation. Fugger was one of the first to see this, and he wasn't content with simply participating in this new economic order. He was determined to lead it. While others in the banking industry followed the old ways of doing business, Fugger reinvented the banking system. His influence over financial markets, his ability to lend money to emperors and kings, and his strategic investments in mining and manufacturing made him the preeminent figure in Europe's emerging capitalist system. He didn't just challenge existing rules. He made new ones. Fugger's approach to business and finance was driven by a profound understanding of power dynamics and how to leverage them. He understood that in order to truly amass wealth, one needed to not only control money but to control the systems that moved it. That meant creating financial structures that were built to withstand any crisis. Fugger's influence on European banking wasn't just about his personal wealth. It was about creating a system of finance that could weather political upheavals, wars, and social changes. By reinventing the rules of banking, Fugger essentially laid the groundwork for modern finance. He redefined what it meant to be a financier in an age of rapid change. Where others saw limitations, Fugger saw limitless possibilities. He didn't allow the prevailing social, religious, or political systems to hinder his goals. Instead, he looked for ways to restructure them to suit his vision. But Fugger's genius wasn't just in his ability to navigate existing systems. It was in his ability to create new systems entirely. Whether it was through his innovative financial instruments, his ability to secure massive loans, or his strategic investments, Fugger continuously challenged the norms of his time and forged a new path forward. He didn't just follow the rules. He made them. And this mindset is one of the most profound lessons Fugger has to offer today. In a world that is constantly changing, economically, politically, socially, It's easy to get stuck in the constraints of existing systems. Fugger's story teaches us that if the system doesn't work for you, don't simply accept it. Build your own system. It's this mindset that allowed Fugger to rise above the limitations of his time and create an empire that stood the test of centuries. He didn't wait for the system to be perfect. He didn't wait for permission. He acted. He adapted. And he redefined what was possible. If the system doesn't work for you, build your own system. Fugger understood that true wealth lies not in following the rules, but in knowing how to reinvent them. He invested in the future, not just the now. Jacob Fugger wasn't a man who focused solely on the present. While many were concerned with the immediate rewards of their efforts, quick profits, short-term gains, and momentary success, Fugger had a long-term vision. He wasn't merely investing in businesses or assets that offered immediate returns. He was investing in the future. In a time when uncertainty loomed large and many played it safe, Fugger took bold steps to plant seeds that would grow and flourish far beyond his lifetime. The concept of long-term thinking was far from the norm during Fugger's time. People were living for the now. They were looking for immediate gratification, focusing on what could be gained within a few months or years. Fugger, however, was different. He understood that real wealth wasn't created by capitalizing on quick wins. It was about creating opportunities that would last for generations. Fugger's investment strategy was one that would make him one of the wealthiest men of his era, but it was also a strategy rooted in a deep understanding of time. While most men looked at investments in terms of months or years, Fugger looked at them in terms of decades and even centuries. He was always looking forward, always thinking about what the world would need in the future, not just what it needed right now. One of Fugger's greatest strengths was his ability to recognize potential where others saw risk. He understood that the path to significant wealth and power wasn't through playing it safe, but through embracing calculated risks. This was evident in how he funded voyages to the New World during an age when such ventures were seen as highly speculative. While many thought it was a gamble to invest in the unknown, Fugger saw these voyages as an investment in the future of global trade, exploration, and empire building. These early investments were the precursors to the vast fortune he would amass, as they paved the way for the global expansion of trade and the exploitation of new markets. Fugger understood that by funding such high-risk ventures, he was positioning himself and his business to reap rewards not just in the present, but in the future. But Fugger's investment in the future wasn't limited to exploration and trade. He also saw the potential in innovations and businesses that others thought were too risky or too speculative. In a world where the majority of people were focused on the present, Fugger was already looking ahead, identifying the innovations that would change the world and make him a part of that change. For example, Fugger was one of the earliest investors in the mining industry. While many were skeptical of the risks involved in mining, especially in an era before modern technology made extraction more efficient, Fugger saw it as a cornerstone of future wealth. He understood that metals like silver and copper would be essential to global trade, and he placed his investments accordingly. Fugger's foresight in investing in mining allowed him to control vast wealth that would continue to generate profit for generations. He was not merely mining for immediate returns. He was building a resource base that would fuel the economic engines of the future. Additionally, Fugger invested heavily in banking. At a time when many viewed banking as an uncertain and fluctuating business, Fugger recognized the importance of financial institutions in the coming centuries. He realized that the rise of global commerce and the expansion of trade would demand new systems of financing, lending, and investment. By funding the development of banking institutions and ensuring that he was at the heart of Europe's financial system, Fugger set himself up to not only survive but to thrive in a world that was rapidly changing. He didn't just invest in banks for short-term profits. He invested in them because he saw the coming financial revolution that would reshape Europe and the world. Fugger's investments also extended to the arts and education. While some might have considered these ventures unrelated to wealth building, Fugger understood that fostering cultural and intellectual development would be critical to the progress of society. By supporting the education of young scholars, funding universities, and patronizing the arts, Fugger was building a legacy that would extend far beyond his financial empire. He didn't just want to be known as a wealthy man. He wanted to be known as a patron of knowledge and a supporter of the advancement of society. He also understood that investing in the future didn't just mean creating tangible assets. It meant shaping the future by making strategic choices today that would have far-reaching consequences tomorrow. Fugger's strategic investments in long-term infrastructure, including the building of railroads, trade routes, and mining operations, were part of his grand vision for an interconnected, thriving global economy. He didn't simply think about his immediate return on investment. He thought about how these decisions would influence the global economy for centuries to come. What Fugger knew, above all, was that wealth is not simply a reflection of the present, it is a reflection of the future. In his eyes, it wasn't about accumulating wealth for the sake of enjoying it in the moment. It was about building a foundation that would stand the test of time, creating opportunities that would benefit future generations. Fugger understood that true success was not just about what you could gain today, but about what you could leave behind, the legacy you could create for those who would follow in your footsteps. This forward-thinking mindset is what set Fugger apart from his peers and allowed him to build an empire that would endure. He saw the present as a stepping stone to the future, a moment in time that could be leveraged to create something much larger than himself. He lived not for the moment, but for the legacy he was creating. Fugger's ability to invest in the future wasn't just about funding ventures that promised future returns. It was about understanding the world's trajectory and positioning himself to be a central player in that future. He wasn't simply investing in the world as it was. He was investing in the world as it would be. In today's world, we often look for quick gains, fast returns, and immediate success. But Fugger's story shows us that true wealth is built not by chasing what is in front of us, but by understanding that the future is always unfolding, and we can shape it with the decisions we make today. If you want to become rich, think like the future is already yours. Start investing now in the opportunities that will shape tomorrow's world. Invest in the future, not just the now. Jacob Fugger proved that those who are willing to look beyond the present moment, to see the long-term potential, are the ones who will ultimately build lasting wealth. He understood that information was the real currency. In the age of global trade, politics, and constant fluctuation, information was one of the most potent forces shaping the world. Jacob Fugger, however, was one of the first to recognize this truth with clarity. While many relied solely on material wealth or physical assets, Fugger understood something far more profound. The true currency of the future wasn't gold, land, or even commodities. It was information. Before the rise of the internet, social media, or mass communication channels, Fugger intuitively grasped that the first to know would always have the edge. Information was more than just a tool for understanding the world. It was the key to making faster, more informed decisions, which in turn led to wealth creation. Fugger didn't just want to react to the market. He wanted to control it. One of Fugger's most revolutionary business strategies was his ability to develop a robust network of messengers who acted as conduits for information. Think about it. Before news could travel globally or even regionally, Fugger built one of the first news networks in the world. This was not a formal media company, but a network of individuals, trusted couriers, merchants, and allies, who would deliver updates on trade routes, political shifts, and economic movements. He knew that if he could be the first to hear what was happening anywhere in Europe, he could leverage that information to make better investment decisions than anyone else. The essence of Fugger's success was his ability to gain a competitive advantage by gathering market intelligence before it became common knowledge. As the world became increasingly interconnected through trade, the ability to understand shifting markets, whether it was the rise of a new trade route or a change in royal succession, gave Fugger insights others could only dream of. In an age where news moved at the speed of a letter or a messenger on horseback, Fugger was ahead of the curve. He was positioned to make decisions and investments before others even knew what was coming. This information gave him the ability to act quickly and decisively in a world that was filled with uncertainty. By the time others heard news, it was already old information. Fugger's network allowed him to act on fresh intelligence, sometimes making crucial decisions hours or days before competitors even knew a shift was occurring. This first-mover advantage, being the first to know and, more importantly, the first to act, allowed him to outpace rivals in almost every field, from banking to mining to trade. The power of foresight, combined with knowledge, positioned Fugger in a unique place in European economic history. It wasn't that he had the most wealth, the largest land holdings, or even the most influential political connections. It was that Fugger had an extraordinary network that fed him essential information on economic conditions, military conflicts, royal decrees, and emerging business opportunities. He didn't just wait for the world to unfold. He anticipated it, often making moves based on whispers of change long before anyone else understood the significance. This use of information as currency was evident in the way Fugger navigated political and economic instability. In times of conflict, when others were either immobilized by fear or too late to act, Fugger had the luxury of making sound decisions because of the market updates he received from his network of messengers. Whether it was the looming threat of war, the shifting alliances between powerful European families, or the economic fallout from a particular political decision, Fugger knew how to use information to his advantage. For instance, When the Holy Roman Empire was in turmoil, Fugger knew exactly when and where to invest. He understood that chaos often meant opportunity for those who had the insight and the courage to make bold moves. Information provided Fugger with the ability to not only anticipate the consequences of political decisions, but also to position himself to benefit from them. This wasn't luck. It was the result of a disciplined and deliberate strategy of gathering and acting upon information that others lacked. Another critical way Fugger used information to his advantage was through his ability to predict the movement of currencies and commodities. As an early financier, he understood the importance of predictive knowledge in determining the right time to buy or sell. Fugger's intelligence network gave him an understanding of when silver, copper, or other key resources would fluctuate in price, giving him a clear edge in managing his own assets and investments. Moreover, Fugger's extensive network allowed him to secure advantageous financial deals that others could not. For example, Fugger lent vast sums of money to the kings and emperors of Europe, often dictating the terms of repayment or securing preferential treatment in trade. While most bankers simply extended credit, Fugger made sure to gather the information that would ensure repayment or guarantee that the value of the currency would rise in his favor before he was repaid. By understanding the political and economic dynamics at play, Fugger was able to time his loans and investments with unparalleled precision, ensuring his wealth would grow rather than be jeopardized. But Fugger didn't just rely on couriers and messengers. He built systems to ensure that the flow of information was constant and reliable. He maintained relationships with traders, diplomats, royalty, and other influential figures throughout Europe. Through these relationships, Fugger had access to the pulse of Europe, knowing about political developments, social changes, and economic shifts well before anyone else. In today's world, information is still one of the most valuable currencies, perhaps even more so than it was in Fugger's time. With the rise of technology, access to information has exponentially increased, but so has the speed of change. Just as Fugger capitalized on the ability to gather information that others didn't have, modern-day entrepreneurs, business leaders, and investors rely heavily on data to make strategic decisions. Fugger's story teaches us that knowledge isn't just power, it's also profit. Understanding the markets, the political landscape, and the opportunities that lie just beyond the horizon is what separates the successful from the average. Fugger didn't just wait for information to come to him, he actively sought it out. He didn't just gather facts, he built an intelligence network that provided him with critical insights into the shifting dynamics of Europe. He understood that information gave him control over situations, decisions, and outcomes. It was a currency that could be traded and leveraged in ways other assets couldn't. Fugger's wealth wasn't just the result of raw power or physical assets, it was the result of his strategic mastery over the flow of information. In today's world, much like in Fugger's time, the key to wealth often lies in who knows what, when, and how. Those who are first to understand the shifts in the market, in politics, and in emerging trends can act faster and more effectively than their competitors. Just as Fugger built his empire on an early recognition of the value of information, we too must understand that the real currency today is not just money, it's knowledge. In a world where information is everywhere, the question is, how will you use it? Just as Fugger built his fortune on a network of intelligence, today's most successful individuals are those who understand that knowledge is profit. He used wealth to influence history. Jacob Fugger, often revered as one of the wealthiest men of the Renaissance, was not merely a banker or merchant, he was a master of influence. His immense fortune, built on a bedrock of insight, risk-taking, and strategy, was never hoarded for personal indulgence. It wasn't about owning the most luxurious possessions or living in the most lavish palaces. Instead, Fugger's wealth was a tool, a powerful means to shape not only his destiny but also the very course of history. Fugger's use of money was unlike any traditional approach. Where most wealthy individuals of his time sought to amass riches simply for comfort, Fugger saw money as a force of change, something that could influence decisions, alter political landscapes, and even shape the fate of nations. His financial dealings extended far beyond the confines of private gain, reaching into the heart of European politics, war, and royal governance. In essence, Fugger understood that true wealth is not measured by the sum of your assets but by the depth of your influence on the world around you. At the core of Fugger's strategy was the idea that wealth must serve a higher purpose. While most men sought riches to improve their personal lives, Fugger sought to improve the systems in which he operated, affecting change not just in the banking world but in the broader world of European governance. He wasn't just content with being the richest man in Europe. He aimed to use his wealth to influence kings, shape political outcomes, and cement his legacy as a driving force in the shaping of European history. His financial power allowed him to directly influence royal decisions, elect emperors, and even fund wars that would reshape the boundaries of Europe. One of the most notable examples of Fugger's influence can be seen in his relationship with the Habsburg dynasty. Through strategic financial maneuvers, Fugger provided vast loans to support the Habsburgs in their quest to dominate the Holy Roman Empire. In 1519, when Charles V was elected Holy Roman Emperor, Fugger played a pivotal role. He financed the election campaign of Charles V, ensuring that the future emperor had the funds to secure votes from the necessary electors. This was no small feat, as the election of an emperor was an intensely political process, influenced by a variety of factors, one of the most important being money. Fugger's financing not only secured the election but also cemented his position as a major political and economic player in European affairs. But Fugger didn't just help fund royal campaigns or elections. His wealth was also mobilized for war. In an era where wars were fought not just with armies but with vast amounts of money, Fugger understood the critical role of financial backing in deciding the outcome of conflicts. He was one of the chief financiers of the Habsburg Wars against the French and the Ottomans, providing resources that ensured the Habsburgs had the necessary means to continue their military campaigns. Fugger's ability to fund wars, essentially shaping the trajectory of battles and treaties, proved the immense power of financial influence over military outcomes. In addition to funding wars and influencing royal elections, Fugger's wealth allowed him to shape religious and social outcomes. The Catholic Church, which was a central institution in Europe at the time, was an important player in Fugger's strategy. He loaned money to the church, using his financial influence to not only secure repayment but also to gain access to the corridors of power within the Vatican. This access gave him the ability to influence papal decisions, further consolidating his wealth and influence over the religious landscape of Europe. Fugger's relationship with the church, though not without controversy, was a key component of his strategy to shape the world around him. He understood that true wealth came not from amassing material possessions, but from leveraging the power of institutions to further one's own objectives. Fugger's ability to mobilize capital for political, military, and religious ends was a clear demonstration of his understanding that money was more than a commodity, it was a weapon. He wielded it with the precision of a master strategist, using his wealth not just to secure personal gain but to influence the very structures of power in Europe. He was a man who understood that the true purpose of wealth is to reshape the world according to one's vision and ambitions. Through his intricate web of financial support, Fugger was able to effect royal succession and even the course of European diplomacy. His investments were never made in a vacuum. They were designed to build alliances, influence key players, and alter the outcome of political events. In a world where power was often defined by bloodlines and military might, Fugger redefined it. He knew that to have true power, you needed more than an army. You needed the means to direct the course of history itself. Perhaps most remarkably, Fugger's wealth was not used for self-indulgence or for acquiring personal luxury. Unlike many of his peers, Fugger had no interest in amassing palaces or personal treasures. His primary focus was on using his wealth to create a legacy of influence, something that would endure long after he had passed. In his mind, wealth wasn't simply a means to elevate his own status. It was a tool for changing the direction of entire nations. Fugger's ability to exert such influence over history came from his vision, his understanding that money could be used not just to achieve short-term goals but to create long-term impact. Wealth, to him, was a vehicle for shaping history, not just an end in itself. By the time Fugger passed away in 1525, his influence had become so profound that his name was known across Europe as a symbol of both economic power and political acumen. In a world where wealth is often equated with status or comfort, Fugger's legacy serves as a powerful reminder that the true power of wealth lies in its ability to influence and shape the course of history. His life teaches us that the most profound impact you can have in the world is not through the accumulation of riches, but through the ways in which you use your resources to change the lives of others, to direct the flow of events, and to leave a legacy that will endure for generations. Fugger's story proves that wealth is not a symbol of status, but a tool for transformation. Today, as in Fugger's time, the richest individuals are not simply those who accumulate material wealth, they are those who use their resources to impact the world on a global scale. Fugger's legacy shows that the true measure of wealth is not in the luxury you enjoy, but in the depth of your influence. He understood that true wealth isn't what you have, it's the mark you leave on the world. He never forgot that all of it starts in the mind. Jacob Fugger, a name synonymous with financial prowess and historical significance, stands as a testament to the immense power of mental frameworks. While the world around him transformed, especially as the Renaissance period ushered in shifts in culture, power, and economics, Fugger remained steadfast in one central truth. Everything, absolutely everything, begins in the mind. When Fugger ascended to heights that few could ever imagine, amassing fortunes greater than some nations, he never lost sight of the fact that wealth creation wasn't just about accessing gold, resources, or investment opportunities. These were important, yes, but none of these things would have been possible without the foundational principle that drove Fugger's relentless success: the power of his thinking. In essence, Fugger's journey proves that the true catalyst of wealth is the mindset that one carries. To truly understand Fugger's approach, it's crucial to look at the kind of thoughts that fueled his vision. Fugger wasn't a man who reacted to his environment. He was a visionary who saw what could be, not just what was. He saw opportunities where others saw obstacles, and he viewed challenges as nothing more than stepping stones toward his goal. This mental clarity, this refusal to be limited by external factors, gave him the ability to build an empire that stretched across Europe and beyond. He believed that wealth begins in the mind, and it is only when you internalize this principle that you begin to attract the circumstances necessary to create and retain wealth. Fugger knew that it was not the wealth that created the mindset, but rather, it was the mindset that created the wealth. It was a cycle that constantly fed itself, with Fugger's ability to think beyond the conventional leading to opportunities that others couldn't even fathom. At the core of Fugger's success was his vision of abundance, an idea that wealth is not a finite resource, but something that can be created and expanded indefinitely through strategic thinking. While many people at the time adhered to a scarcity mindset, believing that there was only so much wealth to go around, Fugger understood that true wealth was not about accumulating resources from a limited pool. Instead, he understood that wealth is a mindset, and those who think abundantly are the ones who can create more of it. Fugger didn't just chase after opportunities that were readily available. He created them. When he looked at the world, he didn't see a fixed system. He saw a landscape of possibilities where new avenues of wealth could emerge through innovation and strategy. This mindset is what allowed him to establish industries, fund major projects, and navigate Europe's turbulent political and economic waters in ways that few could ever replicate. His investment wasn't limited to tangible assets or property. Fugger's most important investment was in himself. In his thinking, his ability to adapt, and his dedication to always learning. He understood that, to achieve the kind of wealth he desired, he had to develop a constant growth mindset, one that never stopped evolving. As the world changed, Fugger evolved with it, continuously expanding his thinking to encompass new ways of thinking about money, business, and influence. At every stage of his life, Fugger embraced new ideas. He was constantly seeking knowledge, whether it was learning the intricacies of the banking system, understanding the complexities of credit, or identifying the next business venture that had the potential for exponential growth. He recognized that in the rapidly changing world around him, those who remained stagnant were the ones who were left behind. Adaptation was key. But more importantly, his ability to adapt his thinking was what gave him the edge over those around him. It was Fugger's deep understanding of the power of the mind that enabled him to weather crises that would have destroyed lesser individuals. During economic turmoil, political unrest, and war, Fugger remained calm and collected, always thinking 2 steps ahead. He didn't see these challenges as threats, but as opportunities. Fugger's mental resilience in the face of adversity speaks volumes about the mindset he cultivated. One that was not afraid to embrace risk but also understood the importance of calculated risk. His mental fortitude was not just about surviving in a tough world, it was about thriving in it. Fugger believed that anyone who wanted to create wealth had to first believe that it was possible for them, and then do the work to make it happen. This mindset allowed him to recognize opportunities that others overlooked, and to seize them before anyone else. However, Fugger's wealth was never an accident. It wasn't simply the result of being in the right place at the right time. His ability to turn ideas into tangible results was grounded in his consistent commitment to thinking differently. He didn't follow the path laid out for him by others. He paved his own way, creating a legacy of success not because of the tools or circumstances available to him, but because of the mindset that drove him. In his time, there was no internet, no modern finance systems, and no easy way to track opportunities across the globe. Yet Fugger was able to amass a fortune that many still regard as one of the greatest of all time. The tools of his time were limited, but his thinking was limitless. He didn't need the internet or sophisticated algorithms to predict trends. He understood the power of information, strategy, and timing. Fugger's approach to wealth creation is a lesson in mental mastery. His unwavering belief that wealth is first created in the mind is a principle that transcends time. Whether you are living in the Renaissance or in the modern world, the mindset remains the same: to create extraordinary wealth, you must first think differently. You must think beyond what is visible in the world around you and look at what could be. Fugger's story shows us that wealth begins with a thought, and it is that thought, when nurtured and expanded, that can lead to a life of abundance. The world may have changed in terms of technology, systems, and access to resources, but Fugger's core philosophy remains as relevant today as it was 500 years ago. Wealth is not a product of external circumstances. It is the result of the way we think about and approach life. If you are willing to adopt Fugger's mindset, if you are ready to expand your thinking and continuously seek opportunities where others see obstacles, then you are well on your way to creating your own legacy of wealth. Fugger understood something that many still struggle with today, that to truly achieve wealth, you must first become wealthy in your mind. This is the foundation upon which all success is built. The tools will come, the opportunities will follow, and the results will speak for themselves. Change your thinking, and you change your world. A 5-second message. Are you in debt? Want to know how to always have money? After watching this video, click the first link below, in the description or the pinned comment. Discover the Live Always with Money method. Find out the 10 steps that are changing lives. Link in the description and pinned comment. And for you, the one who knows you were born to be a millionaire, to be rich, I invite you to discover how to get rich through the power of thought. Access the method in the description. Golden Mindset, 30 Steps to Wealth Through the Power of the Mind.